A king lies face down on a Northumbrian battlefield, still breathing. The sons of the man he executed years earlier are standing over him now, and they have not come to grant him a quick death. According to the sagas, they carve his ribs away from his spine, one by one, until his back opens like a pair of wings. Then they reach inside his chest and pull his lungs out through the wound, spreading them across his shoulders, while he is still alive to watch it happen. The Vikings called it the blood eagle. And whether it was ever truly performed exactly this way is one of history's most disturbing unanswered questions. This is the story of the execution that has terrified and fascinated the world for 1,000 years, and the king whose betrayal may have inspired it. To understand the blood eagle, you first have to understand the man the sagas say it was created for. Ragnar Lothbrok, part historical figure, part legend so tangled with myth that scholars still argue where the man ends and the story begins. By the saga accounts, Ragnar is a Viking king and raider whose name alone is enough to spread fear across the coastlines of northern Europe. Around the year 865, the sagas claim Ragnar's ships are wrecked off the coast of Northumbria, in what is now northern England. He and his surviving men are captured not by a rival Viking, but by an Anglo-Saxon king named Ælla. Ælla, according to the legend, does not offer Ragnar the death of a warrior. He orders him thrown into a pit of venomous snakes. The sagas say Ragnar dies slowly, poisoned again and again, and that with his final breaths he does not beg. He laughs. He is said to speak his last words as a promise, not a farewell. The little pigs would grunt if they knew what the old boar suffers. He is talking about his sons. Word of Ragnar's death reaches his sons scattered across Scandinavia, among them. According to the sagas, Ivar the Boneless, Björn Ironside, and Sigurd Snake-in-the-Eye. Ivar is the most feared of them. The sagas describe him as a brilliant, ruthless commander and give him a nickname that has puzzled historians for centuries. Some accounts suggest a physical condition affecting his legs. Others suggest the name refers only to his cold, calculating nature. No one alive today knows for certain. What the sources agree on is this: when the news of their father's death reaches Ivar and his brothers, they do not immediately sail for revenge. They wait, they gather warriors, they build alliances. According to the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, a real historical record, not saga, a massive Viking force lands in England in 865. Later writers call it the Great Heathen Army. This is not a raid. Raids come and go in weeks. This army stays for years, campaigning across multiple English kingdoms with a purpose that looks less like plunder and more like conquest. And Northumbria, Ælla's kingdom, is the very first target, 866 AD. The Great Heathen Army captures the city of York, catching Northumbria in the middle of its own civil war between two rival claimants to the throne, one of them Ælla. The following year, the Northumbrians attempt to retake the city. It fails, catastrophically. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle records that both rival Northumbrian kings die in the battle. One of them is Ælla. This much is documented history: the invasion, the siege of York, the deaths of the Northumbrian kings. What happens to Ælla's body afterward is where recorded history ends and saga begins. The later Norse sagas, written centuries after the events, compiled by Icelandic storytellers who never witnessed any of it, claim that Ivar and his brothers took Ælla alive, or captured him in the battle's aftermath, and gave him a death designed to answer their father's suffering with suffering of his own. The blood eagle, the descriptions vary between sources, but the core of the ritual, as the sagas describe it, is the same. The condemned man is bent forward, his back exposed. His ribs are severed from his spine one at a time and pulled outward through the skin, forming a shape the Norse poets compared to an eagle's spread wings. In the most extreme versions of the story, salt is packed into the open wound. In some, his lungs are pulled through the opening and draped across his shoulder blades, still moving with what remains of his breath, a final, horrifying image meant to resemble folded wings. The sagas frame it not merely as torture, but as a sacrifice, an offering to Odin, king of the Norse gods, carried out with the same solemn purpose as a blood ritual on a temple altar. Whether this ritual ever happened exactly as described is a question that has occupied historians for well over a century, and the honest answer is that no one truly knows. Here is what makes the blood eagle one of history's most contested mysteries. Nearly every surviving account of it was written 2 to 3 centuries after the events they describe, by Christian Icelandic writers working from oral tradition, composing sagas as much for drama and cultural memory as for historical accuracy. No contemporary Anglo-Saxon source, Not the Anglo-Saxon chronicle, not any churchman writing in the 9th century mentions the blood eagle at all. The earliest sources simply record that Ælla died in battle against the Viking invaders. Some historians argue the ritual is a literary invention. Born from a misreading of Norse skaldic poetry, poems using the image of an eagle tearing at a corpse on a battlefield as a common metaphor for death in combat. Later taken literally by saga writers generations removed from the original meaning. Others argue that even if the details were dramatized over centuries of retelling, the core of the story, a brutal, ritualized execution carried out by Ragnar's sons against the king who killed their father, may reflect something that actually happened, even if the anatomical specifics were never quite so precise. What is certain is only this: the story of the blood eagle was being told and written down by people who believed the Vikings capable of it. And that belief alone tells us something true about how the Viking world was remembered, as a place where vengeance was sacred, and where the line between ritual and cruelty was not something anyone was in a hurry to draw. We may never know if Ælla's ribs were truly spread like wings on a Northumbrian hillside. The men who could tell us are 1,000 years dead, and the only witnesses who wrote it down were never there to see it. But the story has outlived the uncertainty. For over 1,000 years, the blood eagle has stood as the ultimate symbol of Viking vengeance, proof, real or embellished, of a world where a son's grief for his father could be answered only in blood, ritual, and terror. Maybe that's the real legacy of the blood eagle. Not the accuracy of the wound, but the truth underneath the legend, that some betrayals were never meant to end with a simple death. They were meant to become a warning that outlived everyone involved. So, do you think the blood eagle really happened, or is it history's most enduring myth? Let me know what you think in the comments.